Hello, I'm Ian,
And I'm Darren.
and welcome to the Average Bikers in a Cave, a show where a group of bikers chat and share opinions about all things motorbike, from news, reviews, interviews, and big questions. If you like what you hear, then be sure to subscribe, tell your friends, and leave us a review.
On today's show, we'll do our usual catch up, we'll look at some snippets of news, and we'll tackle this week's big question: soundtrack for the road, or let the road be your soundtrack. The debate over music on or off. This week's episode is sponsored by After Ground, an exceptional drone, wedding, portraiture and events photography and videography company that specialises in capturing video and images on the ground and in the air in a style that is modern yet timeless, interesting and vibrant, with a focus on exhilarating moments and pure fun. Using their experience, skills and knowledge, they will work with you to ensure your videos and photos are exactly the way you want them. For more information or to chat to the team, head over to www.afterground.com or check out their Facebook page.
Hello, how are you, and what has been happening with you, Darren?
As people may have may not seen, this week has been particularly quiet. However, I had a nice little trip up to BMW last weekend, purely because I had a service light on, which is good considering the bike hasn't really moved since it got serviced in November. Took it up there, got its service light reset, and fair play and shout out to Scott at Douglas Park. I phoned him and said, this light's on, this is not normal, and he said, just bring it up anytime between X and Y. He says, now get it in, get it thingied. So took the bike out, took it up there, the guys reset it, and apparently it's when if you disconnect the battery, it can happen on BMWs.
Oh,
and
right.
I was like,
Good to know.
Right, that's handy. Although it was funny, I took it out of the garage, started it up, way up the motorway, not realising how obviously quick the bike is because I hadn't ridden in a while, and I'm doing speeds I probably shouldn't have been doing on a certain section of the motorway. Shocking. Looked down and went, oh, and then rolled off. Got the bike there, went away in, saw Scott, and he went out and it wouldn't start for him. It literally wouldn't start for him, and yet I'd started it, drove it up there, no bother, started first time. He went in, couldn't start, so he had to push it around the back and he had to charge to the battery. So I got free charge and a free service light reset,
Fair play,
which is
yeah.
quite good.
BMW for that, nice one.
So that just meant that I had to actually take the bike out for a run then, just to make sure that it got some charge in it, because that
Which is an essential trip, therefore.
it's essential, which was good. So me and the wife went out, she took hers out, and we just
Nice.
shoom, away for the day. And it was one of the days where the sun was out and it was cold, but it was a nice wee day out. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Forgot just how much you miss being out on the bike
I know.
for a decent run. So, but aye, other than that, it's been quiet. What about you?
I've been working away, so so I've just really been using the bike for commuting. Although I have been playing with a couple of cameras I've got, so I think we'll be looking at them in a later episode.
Yes, in the coming weeks.
Yeah, so I managed to take some kind of cool video of me on the bike, not looking like the videos on the bike. It's quite cool. So, which is one of the cams we'll be looking at later on. We don't want to don't want any spoilers, so we'll talk about it.
Any spoilers?
Talk about it later on.
We've got a fair old list to check, actually.
Aye, so from that point of view, that was a bit of fun. So, but to be honest, it's been pretty quiet. Bike's been running fine, like we dreamed, to be honest. You know what I mean? It's not the typical Triumph. It's no marking its territory with oil or anything. So, you know, it's all right. You know what I mean?
And it does sound good coming
And
into
it
the
does sound
drive.
good,
It just
doesn't it?
that
So.
classic
Yeah.
Triumph triple sound.
I mean, it does. It's a cracking looking wee bit. It's the kind of bike that I think the best way to describe it is it's the kind of bike that people that don't know anything about bikes go, "Oh, that's a nice bike."
I know.
You know, 'cause
My
it's
wife's quite
really
taking me a bike, by
She
the way. I'm
listens,
just
yeah.
forewarning you. Make sure the key's in your pocket at all times. But she's quite taking me.
Brilliant.
we went in to Triumph when she was looking for bikes, and she kind of went. But obviously, Triumph locally where we are was going through its kind of change.
Aye, so it's low stock.
So it was low stock, and I think the majority of them were like Tigers. You know what I mean?
Aye.
Not the big cat, but the big. And she was like thinking, "Oh, I need a step ladder to get on that." Aye. Shame they stopped.
Have you
having the wee
seen
street cup.
the new street twin? No, the new
No.
street twin, the paintwork and everything on it. If, you know, from a kind of cafe racery type look, kind of matte black with kind of just very thin yellow or gold kind of styling on it. It's really nice.
Is it?
Really nice. It's worth a look again.
And now that they're back open,
Now they're back open. Yep, absolutely. I would imagine most of your bike showrooms will be back open now, folks.
well, actually, there's another sneaky wee bit of news. I got a phone call start of the week. I've been offered to go out and as part of the launch, shall we say, of Harley's new Pan America.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know if they're doing an actual test run because you've only got like a half-hour slot.
Right.
So I'm assuming it's just to go in, sit on the bike, see the bike, ask
You'll
questions.
probably not get it on the road.
You probably not get it on the road yet. So I'm looking forward to getting on the road, but I'm looking forward to seeing it in person because the pictures, I think it's a Marmite bike. I think you'll either love it or hate it. I'm interested to see how that goes. So that's kind of...
Take your cameras with you?
All 6 of them.
All 6 of them, absolutely.
Cool. The other big thing this week is we've kind of managed to get our finger out a little bit.
Yes.
In terms of social media.
Yep.
Not TikTok.
No.
I'm still not done TikTok yet.
But how you can make the bikes dance.
I know. We'll get
and also make us look like 13-year-old girls.
And get...
Maybe we should do that one out.
No. And we'll get Rasputin playing in the background.
Exactly.
And then the podcast will not make it for copyright issues. We are live on Facebook. I don't know why I'm telling you, Ian, because you know, but there's just everyone out there. We are live on Facebook. And we are on Instagram as well, so Average Bikers in a Cave. We'll continue to update that with little snippets and screenshots and anything we find kind of through the weeks that we find funny. Also, as we alluded to, in the coming weeks, we'll do something. We're going to do something a little bit special with camera reviews and stuff like that, and we'll set some of that footage and we'll put it up on the Facebook page and on Instagram and stuff. So Instagram seems to be a wee bit of a slow burner. But definitely Facebook page, there's a fair few followers so far.
Yeah,
so
we picked up quite
that's
well.
quite
Good. So keep an eye on it, folks. Right. What else we got? We've got an email set up as well. Yay. So yeah, absolutely. If you want to get in touch with us, Aver Bikers in a Cave, AVER.
That was a misspelling on my part. Aye, that was.
Right.
It's Average Bikers in a Cave.
Is it? So
I can't spell.
So have you missed out the rest of that email?
I missed it. I've missed out the age. I think that was a Freudian slip.
Aye.
I've just missed out the age.
You were averse to it, right?
It was hey.
Average Bikers in a Cave at outlook.com. If you want to drop us a wee email, if there's something you want us to talk about, chat about, you get some questions about the drivel that we're going on about, then, let us know. Do you know what I mean? We'll get you. We'll get back to you with that one. But do please keep it nice. Tell us what you think of the show, what you'd like to talk about, and if there's a particular topic, a big question, you'd like us to chat about, then definitely we're up for talking about anything, really, aren't we?
Yep.
And then if we've got a list of questions, we'll maybe do a listener special and answer all in one go, or maybe try and source a particular guest that we can get in.
Any ideas are welcome. Absolutely. We've got a fairly extensive list of what we think we're going to go through over the coming weeks, months, years, decades, however long we run for.
If we've got one listener, we will be on air. So
exactly. And if that one listener's got something they want us special to talk about, then we'll prioritise that over some of the dribble that we talk about.
Brilliant. And now it's time for the news. So what's up first, Dan?
An update from last time on CBTs for care workers. So a motion's been raised with the House of Commons by independent Jonathan Edwards. I don't know if that's the same guy who was the long jumper or whether he's just coincidentally got the same name. I don't know. But he's it's highlighted that obviously what we discussed around CBTs and stuff expiring and how there's a need for extensions. The government is still obviously reluctant to offer these extensions. Guys at home can't see me, but I'm waving my hands in the air and
pulling hair out left, right, and
so Mr. Edwards suggested free resets. He's a Welsh MP, but the Welsh MP has also been quick to remind the government that not only are a lot of key workers living in rural areas and they rely heavily on their motorbike or their scooter to get to work, but also small capacity motorbikes and scooters are also a form of low carbon transport. And the benefits of not pushing key workers onto other forms of transportation just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird one. They haven't set an official date in the House to actually debate it, but the fact that someone's kind of grabbed hold of it and not let go and is shaking it,
that's good, isn't it?
That is because I still think it's absolutely nuts. Anyway, what's next, Dean? Because if we stay on this, I'm just going to
We could have
rant.
had 2 hours of
I'm going to rant.
and crying.
Yeah,
And ranting.
frustrating.
So in other news, there's a new Indian chief, and I'm not being politically incorrect here and implying some sort of Native American hierarchical thing. This is the Indian motorbike, the Indian chief. It's brand new. It's been 100 years since it was first released. The Indian motorcycle. It's there's a complete refresh. I love it. Absolutely love it. I've seen a few pictures of it. In fact, I think there's a couple of guys have put up on some of the Facebook pages. They've picked theirs up, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous kind of.
It looks a lot more modern.
Yeah,
Aye.
it's kind of old fashioned modern, if you know what I mean. It's really cool, but it's not old fashioned. Gone are the big long fenders. It still looks like an American lump, right?
Aye.
I think but that's why you buy one of these types of bikes. That's what it looks like. But it's definitely a lot sleeker and more modern looking.
You're not buying it to go in the Nürburgring, aye.
Without losing the history. That's probably the best way to put it. Its scheduled release is spring, but some folk have got them. I've seen them.
Yep.
I've seen some pics. So depending where you're looking. Yeah. There's a few variants. There's the Chief itself coming in at just shy of 16 grand. There's the Chief Bobber, which is coming in at just under 18 grand. And then the Super Chief, £5 short of 20 grand. So they're not cheap. You know what I mean? But
No.
I think from that point of view, it's a small market probably for that type of bike. If you think what you can get from Triumph, or you think you can get from some of the other manufacturers, you really want. You're paying for that history. You're paying for that nostalgia type thing. Because there's a lot of good bikes out there for.
I think their target market is to try and wrestle some of the guys away from Harley.
Aye, absolutely.
I think that's who they're aiming at, really.
They're going to share the same fundamentals. Almost 1900cc air-cooled V-twin, 126 pounds-foot torque, 304 kilograms weight.
It's a beast.
Aye. And they've got some new neat TFT that doubles as a sat-nav, which is nice.
Which is quite cool, actually.
It's just, modern.
Aye,
up
it's
to date.
keeping that American lump, but putting kind of a bit of new tech on it is kind of what some of the other competitors, I'm doing air quotes, are missing.
Aye, yeah, the sticking with the analog stuff and kind of going,
It's fine if that's what your wee bike, right? Your wee bike.
Aye.
If you put a TFT on that, I don't think it would look. It would lose that retro charisma.
Aye, yeah, absolutely. I mean, unless they could get a nice TFT that looked retro, but that's like, that's going.
That'd be lovely.
It would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Wee round dial, but still
with
like a digital.
and you could change it and settings on. Anyway, do you listen to Triumph? That would be really cool. And if you want to send me one and fit it to my street cup, that'd be nice. Right?
Aye. Clearly, it needs to be retrofitted as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, I think my wee bikes like that. I think the analog dials and everything look.
Well,
it's what you want, really.
I think if they can get it down to that single dial, right, where they can do almost like a TFT, but you can set it so that it looks like an analog dial, but then you can have, say, the middle part then gives you like sat nav and that kind of stuff. Means then you can stick with a single dial, and on certain bikes, single dial is really what you want. So probably on the Chief Bobber, a single dial would just look amazing.
Aye,
you know what I mean. On yours, has yours got twins?
Twin dials, yeah.
You know what I mean, would look good. Single dial would still look good. Aye, 304 kilograms. My old Sport Glide was 314 wet, and it was a lump. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
It was a big, in touch with that, I'd never dropped it, but I think if it started to go, it was just going to go.
Near that, do you know what I mean?
Aye.
I don't know how it moved something like that.
I think because they've got low centres of gravity, you don't really notice it when you're kind of slow moving and all that kind of stuff. But I think if it started to go, just forget it.
It's
gone.
Gone.
It's just gone.
What's next, Dan? Let's look at from retro to
retro to
suicidal.
To suicidal. The new 2021 Hayabusa. And I'm going to put this in here. Warning: the following contains content that people may find sexually arousing.
A wee bit of wheeze already come out, to be fair.
Aye, and that's why we obviously sat in the cave, and I've left the article on the desk, and it's been lying out for a couple of days now because I just keep looking at it and going, oh my god. I've purposely stayed away. There's a few YouTubers went to the actual launch this week and actually got to ride it albeit up and down a straight bit of airfield. I've purposely not watched it because
Jealousy is such a destructive emotion.
it
Really,
is,
isn't
it is, mate. It is, it absolutely is. So it's a 1340cc inline four, 187.74. I'm going to be precise on this.
Yep.
Brake horsepower. 110.6 pounds foot of torque.
Jeez.
268 kilos wet. You know what I mean? So 187 at 264. That's like 500 brake horsepower per ton. That's just scary.
It's just
frightening. 800 mil seat height, so not bad for the people with short legs. Cost, and this is nuts. Cost 16.5 grand. 16.5 grand for something like a weapon, a missile on wheels.
Imagine my Tron riding with that.
What? Yeah, you would just need to ask for the roads to be shut. You would just, or head up to like Crail or something like that, where there's just a big bit of straight road.
The crazy thing is, so these, I mean, they're for track days and things, so to really push them, you're going to take them on a track day or something.
Aye, to get the full benefit of it, aye.
You know.
But then, you know what I mean, that's a lot of bike to take on a track. Do you know what I mean? It's that's well beyond my talent and capability. But again, we talked about obviously the dials and stuff. This thing's got a mix of analog dials for the speed and the rev counter, but then it's got a wee TFT nestled in the middle, which can show you obviously your settings and stuff like that, but you can also use it for your sat nav.
Cool, that is cool.
You're like that? Yeah, we were just talking about that. Literally just talking about it. All Brembo brakes, full LED lights, rider modes, quick shifter, 10-stage anti-lift control. That tells you a story about how much power's in this thing, which is scary. 3 engine brake modes, 3 modes for launch control, cruise control.
The very fact it's got launch control just shows you. The very fact that it's got a launch control. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want a bike with launch control, but then if I had that much bike, I'd make sure that I'd want it to have launch control.
Absolutely.
With that much power. But again, the list goes on and on. The bang for the buck is just absolutely horrific.
It's the kind of bike that reminds you that adrenaline's brown, isn't it?
Aye, pretty much, mate. Pretty much. MCN, back in the middle of February, I think it's issue 6, has got a full 8-page spread on it. I would advise you, if you can get a back copy, to get a back copy and look at it. We've got it in front of us at the minute, and it's
a work of art, really, isn't it?
It is a work of art, dude. They've broke it down into each of its individual components and laid it out on a floor and took a picture. Even in bits, it still terrifies me. It's still an absolute weapon. I'd love to have the cojones to jump on that and grip for dear life and see how fast it went, but I'm with you.
I've not got the skill.
I'd need to take my underwear shut. Do you know what I mean? Just to catch it.
It's the kind of thing you would see in a Jack Reacher movie. They don't open a case and looking at it, and it's the kind of thing that the North Koreans are trying to get hold of. Do you know what I mean?
It looks like a bike that's came straight out of the MCU.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Black Widows, Hayabusa.
Aye, she didn't die collecting Infinity Stone. She died on her Hayabusa.
Absolutely.
Would probably be more realistic.
Yep.
Anyway, we digress. Next up,
illegal number plates.
Again, something that winds me up.
Aye, constantly. It's a wee article on MCN, but the police have a new weapon in their fight against illegal number plates. But didn't even know there was a fight. Did you know there was a fight?
I don't know if it was a full blown war or whether it was more like a scrap.
We can have
handbags at dawn.
Somebody booting your ankles down the side alley of the pub because you spilled their pint. Essentially, it's a little piece of card or laminated paper that's transparent, and they can quickly hold it up against your letters and your numbers and tell if they conform to the UK law or not. So they can then take a picture of the card, and it can be used as evidence and issue you a ticket. So folks, if you've got tiny wee number plates, dodgy number plates, non-reflective, any of these kind of things, they have a bit of card. Warning!
I'm going to get another sound for the next episode. Warning.
So, yes, you could be done with cardboard. There you go.
They haven't said what they're fining you.
No, they don't.
I don't know what the standard fine is for. I don't know. Again, I'd like to see that they've went to the fullest expense and got laminated card. They probably got a laminator at Aldi or Lidl when it was on special.
Absolutely. They went in for a power drill. Do you know what I mean? Didn't they get it?
Aye, I can imagine that team meeting that morning. We're going to issue you with your new weapon against bike crime. There's a bit of laminated card.
Exactly.
Although I did read something earlier in the week which I thought might interest you. I meant to say to you, obviously the whole motorbike theft thing it's a big thing.
Yes.
More so down south than I think up here, but definitely it's a thing. They've actually started, or they're piloting, and I'm using the word pilot as a kind of double lead in. They're going to use drones to help in catching these. And I don't know if they're going to use it like a kind of follow me thing and all that kind of stuff. So,
it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
If I find the article, I'll ping you so you can get a read of it.
Absolutely.
It was quite interesting.
I take all these kind of things with a pinch of salt, but fair, because I know we're talking about bikes, but they'll shout drones for anything at the minute. We'll say, we're using drones for this, and we're using drones for that, and then the Civil Aviation Authority walk up and go, no, you're not. So,
especially if you're anywhere near a local airport.
Exactly.
Or a special building. I'm doing air quotes again. I need to get an air quote button. But special building.
Your bike's been stolen 2 miles away from fast lane. You ain't going to drone anywhere near that place.
No. Or MI6.
Exactly. Bletchley Park. It's not happening.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Just forget it.
Stonehenge. You're not getting anywhere near Stonehenge. Yeah, there you go.
I know you can't get it. You can't get it near Fitbogrins and things like that because it's blocked off as a red zone. And anyway, we digress. That's probably another. We maybe incorporate that into our camera special.
We could do a wee
discussion, a wee bit of droneage.
Yes,
which just gives me more stuff to go and look up.
Brilliant.
And last but not least, we'll finish on some good news.
Yep.
The bike show returns.
Absolutely.
So Motorcycle Live has confirmed that the show is returning in 2021 to the NEC after obviously last year's show was cancelled, obviously due to pandemic and safety reasons, which is good. Dates for this year are the 4th of December to the 12th of December, which is great news that the bike show is coming back. I don't know how many manufacturers are going to be there. That's the only thing. Again, I don't know what restrictions are going to be like come December.
Yeah, come December, how many folk can be there, how busy or not it's going to be, how easy it'll be for us to do a podcast from there, that kind of thing.
That'd be ideal. I know. See the thing that gets me, but the bike show is always kind of towards the tail end of the year, right? And obviously us living where we live, to take the bikes to the bike show around about the November, December time, it's just crazy. But at least it's back, which is the main thing.
Yep.
And yes, we should maybe try and get tickets for that on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone who's listening to us have connections with Motorcycle Live, Motorbike Live, then press passes will do. You know what I mean?
I know. We should reach out to some of these other vloggers and the likes and say, how do you manage to get in there? Surely there's a back door, you know what I mean? And a little back door to sneak us in.
Sneak us in, absolutely. Nice one. Good round up with the news here, Dan. Thank you.
The big question.
The big question.
That was the best I could do at short notice this week.
That's all right. It's fine. It's all right. It's no worries. I mean, I'm not sure if it's digital or you were just peeing against a wall, but it's fine. It'll do.
It's a start.
Absolutely. So this is the big question, folks, and the big question this week is music on or off? Soundtrack for the road, or let the road be your soundtrack? That's a nice wee catchy line, that, isn't it?
I know. I worked hard on that.
That could be our autobiography when we're rich and famous.
Rich and infamous, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. So, big question, music on or off? The open road is with a cliche playlist humming along in the background. It's one of those views that you have, you know, when you think of Route 66 and you think of all these kind of guys biking up and down the country, and they've got music blaring left, right and centre, and all these kind of classic Americana rock stuff and all this kind of stuff. It's what you kind of imagine what life to be like, yeah? Should we be listening to music while we are riding, either in our helmets or kind of via built-in speakers? I'm in your helmets, obviously, but I know a lot of the bigger bikes have got music and stuff blaring away. Has yours got a speaker thing?
It's got the holes for the speakers.
Oh, right.
But I wasn't paying £1,500 for it.
Oof. Aye, fair enough. I
wouldn't pay £1,500 for a set of speakers for the house.
No.
Never mind for my bike. And plus, I'm one of those guys that when they see, I know I signal at Gold Wings, but the first one I ever remember seeing was an old Gold Wing that had the speakers, and the guy was pulling up to the junction of Hope Street and Argyle Street in Glasgow, and he was blaring out, I think it was Bruce Springsteen. Absolutely nothing wrong with the boss, but he was absolutely blaring it out of the lights, and I thought, really?
Aye.
It's just, no.
That's the thing.
And then at 70 on the motorway, you're just never going to hear it anyway, so what's the point?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I would love to just have a go at one of those just to see how can you actually hear that? You know, if anyone's out there saying they've got that on their bikes, let us know. Can you hear it at 70 miles an hour?
No, but when I took the demo of mine, it had the stereo in it.
Well, did it?
And I thought, I'm going to check this out. This was before I knew how much the stereo cost. And it was, again, going along the motorway at 65. Couldn't hear it. Had it up full. And it was like, I just can't hear that. Obviously, though, I've got earplugs in.
Aye.
And I don't think that helped.
Right.
But then we'll talk about earplugs in a minute. So, aye. And don't get me wrong, but see, cruising along at 30 miles an hour, it's fine, you can hear it. But you're not the only man that can hear it.
Oh, that's it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Old Betty walking her Labradoodle can hear it as she's walking down the street.
Absolutely. Now, let's do the legal bit first, shall we?
Yep.
It is perfectly legal to listen to music whilst riding. There's no issues there, right? You can listen to music whilst you're riding your bike, either in your helmet or, as we said, on the big speakers. You know what I mean?
Aye.
But the question I think we're kind of talking about here is, when is it safe to do so or not safe? So if you're on a longer trip, you know, does some people say it focuses you, kind of takes away the monotony of a longer trip? You know what I mean?
If you're doing I suppose if you're doing motorways, me personally, I think I would probably have it on.
Well, I had it on coming to you, right?
Aye.
So I've got a wee Freecom. It's a
And you were and you're motorway pretty much.
No, I took the back roads.
Oh, did
I
you?
took the back roads.
Good lad.
I took the back roads, and on a side note of taking the back roads, it's the season that everybody's going out and they're spreading muck in all the fields. So not only can you hear the road, you can smell the road. So there we go.
That's a whole other. That's a whole other topic.
So I was listening to coming in, but you know, I think the one I've got, the Scala one, changes the volume as you go faster, so it actually gets louder as you go faster.
That's right. So it does.
It's quite good. So
because that's the same mob that, I say mob. That's terrible. It's shocking grammar. But that's Cardo, I think, that do the packed up bowl. They do that. That's the Freecom.
Yeah, that's one of the types of headsets.
That's right.
I to be honest, I turn it on whether I'm listening to music or not, because the other thing is you can take a phone call on it.
Yeah.
You know,
or listen to sat nav.
Yeah, I listen to your sat nav, and essentially it's for your sat nav and communicating with your phone in that way that I would use it. So, like the first time I came to you, and I didn't know where you were, you know, the sat nav was ideal.
It's ideal.
Google Maps, whatever it was. So
gets you in the vicinity.
Exactly. So yeah, but then there's other people that say you can't concentrate, you don't do it. What about you, Dan?
I'll be honest. I've always had music in my life. I used to have a massive vinyl collection and that kind of stuff. So vinyl does play a big part. It's the one thing that I've distilled into my kids is a decent kind of appreciation for music. So music's always been there, and I think for me it helps. I don't have it blaring. I don't have it pumping out absolute noise. It's just kind of trickles in the background. It's more so that, because I think if it's too loud, there's obviously the potential for ear damage, which is bad enough on the motorbike. But for me, the concern would be that I don't hear ambulances and anything like that. And obviously, you're looking as much as you can, but you can usually hear it before you can see it, especially if you're on a back road. So it's one of those ones. I just think it helps me, I want to say focus, but it kind of takes away that road noise and that kind of constantly second guessing what every little thing can, you know what I mean? With that on in the background, I can solely then focus on my riding, what's coming, what's behind me, you know what I mean, any kind of potential hazard, and that's the reason I do it. Even when I'm out and I've got pillion, we normally listen to our own music, but the comms are still open so that we can still talk to one another. So it does play literally quite low in the background. Yeah. So that the comms takes priority. And obviously you can change the settings, stuff like that.
That's what I do when I'm got my son out on the bike as well. Do you know what I mean?
The argument of the whole sat-nav thing, though, is something I hadn't thought about, and it's probably a decent argument, is having it paired up purely for the sat-nav and having the sat-nav on in your ear. For me, that's a safety thing, because I think if you're going somewhere where you don't know, you're so focused on the signs and you're scared of missing something that potentially you could miss a hazard on the road. So having that in your ear, actually just saying, right, your next turning's like 500 yards away or whatever, it means then you can solely focus on, or you're less distracted.
You're approaching the turn and know where you're going.
And don't get me wrong, you mean, some purists out there will go, well, you should be able to see all the signs and all that information all at one time. But I think if you're going somewhere and you have to be there.
But then if you think if you're driving your car and you've got the purists that say, oh, you don't need a sat nav, you should be able to read a map. slightly harder to do the map when you're riding a bike. You know, flaps the wind a bit. I've noticed.
I was going to say, never tried it. For that reason.
We've got some interesting stats here, I think, which is quite good in terms of kind of ear damage, safety, stuff like that.
This is more a kind of, it's an interesting point, I think, just around the decibel levels that your ears are subjected to when, well, not just when you're on a motorbike, but playing music and all that kind of stuff. So I think the average, you and I sitting here having the conversation, albeit we've got our headphones on, that's still probably about 60 to 70 decibels, which is not too bad. Safe levels are considered between 60 and 80, so we're perfectly safe sitting here having this discussion, talking to you guys. Music, on the other hand, if you've got music coming through our headphones, so if we were suddenly to drop off the podcast and share the same music, it could be anywhere between 50 and 100 decibels, depending on how loud we like it. And then obviously we were singing, screaming at the top it, could be then 110. Research by a company down south, Oraltech, has shown that riding a 1000cc motorbike at 50 mile an hour generates 92 decibels of wind noise, and that's before you then add music to the top of that. So if you were to play music and have all that wind noise, you're only amplifying the damage that's potentially getting done to your ears. Within 26 minutes, again without music, just with that wind noise, you're not supposed to have you're not supposed to go any longer than 10 minutes or so. After 26 minutes, that's when you start to cause damage to your ears. That's quite scary. I mean, you don't really think about it.
I don't think about it, and I don't do it. I don't wear earplugs most of the time. I'm a bit deaf anyway, so you know. You're right. I don't wear earplugs, and I don't find it uncomfortable to be riding my bike at kind of 50 miles an hour and that noise. I really don't. Genuinely, probably because I'm a bit deaf, But then I'll put music on top of that, and as you say, the free com will up the music levels as you go faster. And in fact, an interesting thing happened to me the other day there when I was out on the bike, and I'd been out for a wee while, and when I got off the bike, I got a warning on my phone telling me that I'd been listening to music for too long at too high a level. So
really?
I wish I'd taken a screenshot of it, because I'd never seen that warning before.
No, I'd never seen that either.
Because I'd had it at full volume, then playing through the helmet. Bizarre warning, but anyway, it was so clearly it's. I was being a naughty boy.
So here's the kicker. Right. If you're riding your bike at say 50 mile an hour on the back roads with your music on, let's just say it's 92 decibels, right, between the wind noise and whatever, right? See if you were to go on the motorway, right, because you can come literally straight on the motorway it's an A road, but it's almost boring. If you were to do 70 mile an hour on that road with your music in, its minimum is going to be 100 decibels, which means you could start to cause permanent damage after 4 minutes. I wear earplugs, but I wear earplugs for a different reason. I wear earplugs because, well, one, we've both got the same helmet, and it's quite a light helmet.
Yeah.
Right? We've both got the Rafa 11, which is a really light carbon helmet. It's great because it means that you feel as if you've got nothing on your head, whereas before I was using a Shark Evo kind of front thing, and it's
I've
quite
got a
heavy.
roof boxer, which is,
again,
I love the helmet, but it's got a bit of weight in it.
Aye. So I was kind of thinking, oh, this is quite light. It might be a bit more thingy with the noise. And then somebody said to me, oh, you should wear earplugs because actually your balance is better with earplugs in. How does that work? Well, but I can testify that your balance does seem better, or mine does seem better with earplugs in. And I don't know if that's just because someone said it and then you go, oh.
I'm going to try that out.
So I picked up a cheap pair with a little filter in it, so I can still hear the music and the outside noise, because it only cuts certain levels of noise out. But again, that's only been a fairly recent thing. I mean, that's only been in the last kind of 12 months. Up until that point, I was like you, helmet on, tunes on. I mean, life is a highway, and off you go. You start to look at it, it's a bit scary. So I'm assuming then, well, I'm not assuming, because you've literally just told the nation. I'm being optimistic there on our podcast count.
Well,
for this one.
It's a very small nation,
Aye, you're obviously listening to music. I listen to music because, well, we enjoy it, and for whatever reason. Here's a question for you, and this follows back to getting to know us a little bit better. What is your top either riding or driving songs? Have you got, because you've got quite a knowledge of music.
I've got as my mum used to say, I've got a very Catholic taste in music,
Yes.
Which I never quite understood, but apparently means a wide-ranging taste in music, I suppose it changes every day. It's a very hard thing to say you know, so right now I'll probably give you 3 or 4 songs that I love, but 6 months' time, those 3 or 4 songs will be further down the playlist. But I think, why do we ride a bike? I think the question I was thinking about this on the way over. I was thinking, why do I ride a bike? Because I love the feeling of it. I love the fun and the joy that you get from riding a bike. So you pick the music right now for you at this point in time that makes you feel happy, that makes you feel fun, and you know, you get a thrill from, you know. So when I was coming over here today, I kind of just did a wee listen to a couple of things I had, and it just jumps from one to the other. So I started with Anthrax, right? Now, I loved Anthrax from when I was and that takes me back to my teenage years. And
I bet you didn't see that coming, listeners.
I know, absolutely. And so I had Anthrax playing, right? And then it jumped from, I'm going to have to look at my playlist again, right? It jumped from Anthrax to Faith Hill. There you go. Now, you cannot get, right, any bigger a jump from Anthrax to Faith Hill. But I love country music, right? And
I'm sorry, hang on. There's no even 6 degrees of separation between Anthrax and Faith Hill. If anyone can find a link between Anthrax and Faith Hill, email us, because I would be absolutely in awe if you could find the 6 degrees of separation between that one.
Absolutely. So there you go. So it went from that to Faith Hill, and then it went back to Iron Maiden, which is a bit more kind of closer to Anthrax, yeah. You know, yeah. But then it jumped to the Dave Brubeck Quartet, right? So I've gone from thrash metal to country, to kind of real cheesy country, back to kind of classic British heavy metal, and then I've jumped to jazz, because it's just songs that make me feel good about things, you know. Faith Hill's got a lot of emotional, it reminds me of when I was younger and love, you know.
Aww.
You know, and lust probably more than that, to be honest. But there you go.
When I was younger and in lust.
And in lust, yeah. But you know, so there's all these things that just pop up. Dan's now sitting shaking his head, right? I wish you could see. He's sitting going,
I'm still trying.
I did not see Anthrax going to Faith Hill in one massive leap.
No, I could never have called that, not in a million years.
There you go.
But I get your point. I think each day, depending on what mood you're in, what the weather's like, where you're going, I mean, all of that, I think, plays a part in you go, right, what is my
I'll tell you one of the
playlist?
best things, right, I've done in terms of music on your bike, yeah. So I go over and see my brother in Ireland. So you're going over the Glen Shane Pass, which is like the highest point in one of the highest points in Northern Ireland. There's a great wee pub there that you can go into, and it says it's the highest pub in Ireland, but I think there's about 3 or 4 that claim that, because if there's one thing the Irish are good at, it's finding a way to get the tourists in. But it's listening to the Local Hero theme tune, the Going Home theme, Local Hero, as you're going over that bit,
Martin Knopfler,
and you're looking right down and down Glen Shane Pass, and as you're heading towards, you know, Derry and get into Donegal and all that, and you're just like, it's just one of these moments where it's just like, wow, this is.
So do you stop at the pub for a fresh orange?
Exactly.
And then make sure your playlists at that moment, and then off you go.
Yeah. So and I've never done a North Coast 500 in the bike, but I've driven bits of it in the car, and there's like certain points that I know I'm getting to that I turn around and I say, I'm just putting on Local Hero, for instance, because it just gives you that sense of just beauty and mystery about the whole place, you know. And you get that, what you get the bike, and I've go back to what I said earlier on, you've got that amazing thing where you don't just see a journey and hear a journey, you smell a journey when you're on the bike as well, you know what I mean, which is brilliant when you're out in the countryside. Not so bad, not so good when you're stuck behind the white van where the guys are smoking their herbal cigarettes in the front before going to do their work. Do you know what I mean? That's when you know you're in Glasgow, you know. And you know, fair play to them. Go for it, guys. I've got no issues with you doing that. It just it certainly kind of panics you a bit when you're on the bike going, that's interesting. That's fine.
Shop my vents. Shop my vents.
Shop my vents. So, but when you're out there and you've got the countryside, you've got that amazing smell of the outdoors, and you know, you get this visual impact of this beautiful scenery, and then you get a classic piece of music like that, or maybe some real classic kind of Pink Floyd or something, just something really big, and
you've been stuck behind that white van too long if you're playing Pink
Floyd. To be fair, that puts you in the mood for that. You know what I mean? That's when I think having music is one of the best things you can have on your bike.
Do you purposely set out, let's say for example you are heading off to Ireland to your brothers, and you know you've obviously got the ride to here to the ferry, and then the ferry across, and then all the way whatever obviously getting to the pub and then putting on Local Hero
Yeah.
for your little trip down to the. But see, and do you have every time you do that journey? Do you then sit the night before and go, right, I'm going to create a playlist for the following morning? And
No, I've got a biker playlist. I've actually got a playlist of about 100 songs. And I stick it on shuffle, which is why you jump from Anthrax to Faith Hill, right? But you know,
I didn't think that was deliberate.
you know, but I still get a lot of joy out of that. You know, so you've got I Am the Law, jumping to This Kiss. It's brilliant, right? So, and I put that's my playlist for being on the bike, and it's I just pick songs that I know I won't skip. I think that's the way I see it, because you can't really skip on the bike, you know. It's different having a playlist and then you get bored of a couple of songs. So if I find an absolute, what I'll call an absolute banger, right, I'll just pop it onto the biker playlist and add on. And then if I am riding the bike and I find a songs come up and I go, yeah, I'm a bit bored of that now. When I get off the bike, I just take it off the playlist.
And edit as you go.
Edit as you go.
I'm with you on that. I think when you create a bike playlist, I think there needs to be certain stuff on there. If we're out and it's me and my youngest on the back, if we're going a decent journey, so I think the last big run we took was up to Aberdeen, and I mean it was a good 300-mile round trip, and we created a massive playlist, and we both inputted. We did a whole family playlist kind of idea, shared playlist, and we just dropped each other's songs into the playlist and then just literally shuffled it on the way.
It's dangerous, but
aye, because I mean, in fairness, she's got a really. I was comfortable with that because, again, both my kids have been educated well. They've been parented
of
well,
course, good
so
man.
that they don't have Justin Bieber and whatever playing in the background. I'm using that as a cheap shot at Justin Bieber. I'm assuming his music's quite good. I've never listened. But we did. I'm the same. I
have no Justin Bieber on my biker playlist. I can assure you of that.
Anthrax, Faith Hill. I mean, there's a stepping stone there. Bieber could be it. But I'm with you. My own personal bike playlist is stuff that I know that I can listen to time and time again and don't get fed up with. And if I do get fed up with, it's then a case of, right, that gets cleared out and something else will make its way on there. And it does get quite, you're right, there is I don't think mine's is definitely nowhere near as kind of jumpy as yours, do you know what I mean? But I can literally go from like Imagine Dragons to the Spinners, Rubber Band Man.
Oh, aye.
Do you know what I mean? And then for that to Calvin Harris. And you're thinking, yeah, but again, it's no Anthrax to Faith Hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's bonus points this week for you.
Dave Brubeck Quartet's on there. Creedence Clearwater Revival. So this,
yep.
You know.
Yep. And my only problem with that is that had to come off my playlist because one of my daughters, matter of fact, TikTok, I think ruined that for me because all I can hear is "There's a bathroom on the right," which is just know the lyrics to that song, and they've ruined it, so it came off.
I think I've only got one, and I don't like dance music, right? I don't listen to dance music apart from one track. One track is the Shallow Grave opening thing by Left Field, which is great. But that's another thing, actually, interestingly enough. I do find with when you're listening to the bike at speed, sometimes you kind of hear a lot of some of the frequencies. You know, so it can be a bit annoying at times as well.
Depending on the type of song.
You know,
do you think certain songs make you ride differently?
Yeah, totally. See, I'll tell you what does happen, and this will show my age and be a bit of a kind of sad fanboy here about certain things, right? But being a child of the 80s and growing up in your kind of Brat Pack type movies and all that kind of stuff,
St. Elmo's Fire.
And all that. But if I am going past an airfield while Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone comes on, you know, need I say any more? I am Top Gun at that moment in time.
I'm going to fess up, right, and say when I got my first 125, my only 125, that was the first thing I did, was headed straight to the airport, put that on, and drove by the airport.
Sometimes on my way home,
when the sun was setting,
you know, I actually set it up and go, right, I'm putting on Danger Zone and I'm going down past. And if you time it right and there's a plane taking off at the same time, that's just a dream. That's it, you know.
Never mind a fighter jet, but a 737 British Airways. You know what I mean?
I'm happy with a wee Fokker.
Heading for, excuse me? A what now?
It's a family show, calm down.
It's a family show, calm down. I think that I can see people's point you know what I mean, of not listening to it. I do know bikers that don't particularly listen to music. I think MT10 man, we know who we're talking about here without naming him.
Right.
But I don't think he's a particularly big music fan. I don't think that may have changed. I've not been on a ride with him for, well, obviously lockdown and stuff. My wife's, you mean, got relatives that are bikers, and we've got friends that are bikers, and there's a few of them don't particularly listen to music because they just prefer the noise of the road, and they can hear what the tarmac's doing, they can hear little chinks in the bike.
I mean, there's certain things that if you can safely do it, you turn the music off for. So like going through tunnels and things, you don't want to hear music in that. You just want to hear the bike reverberating around the tunnel, for instance, you know?
Yep.
So if you're going through the Clyde tunnel at night, I don't put music on, I want to hear that bike going, right, to the tunnel, just, you know.
I think that's something that I have mine usually louder in the daytime than I do at night. I don't know why I have it that little bit quieter at night.
You know, the more I think about it, the more I think if I'm scooting about in the dark, I don't tend to put my music on for some reason.
Weird that, innit?
Aye.
You know what I mean?
Or it's lower, it's much lower.
Aye. And I think that's and I don't know if that's, maybe subconsciously, I'm thinking.
Or is that when I play my Barry Manilow? That's a disclaimer, I don't. But just...
After the revealing Anthrax to Faith Hill, I wouldn't put it past you.
Fair enough. Don't diss Barry. I like Barry. I'm going no issues with Barry.
Driving through the Clyde tunnel, singing Mandy into your helmet at the top of your lungs. It's maybe there's a subconscious thing there that makes us do that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But I like being out at night in the still of the night. So it's it's probably a bit like that in the terms of
the song.
No, not the song, but don't mind the song to be fair. But you know, like when I was younger and you go out driving, you get with your pals, you go out at night and you go for a wee drive somewhere. You know, I just love that whole kind of eerie kind of quietness about it. So it's probably a bit to do with that as well.
Aye, I've noticed that being out on late night runs, more so for training. No big bike, advanced riders training.
Aye.
Especially when you get close to the end of the season and you were coming out back roads and things like that, it was, you mean, I would have it off because I was solely focused, like just completely zoned on trying to remember everything that I'm trying to do, as well as, and probably the music wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference, but I think just psychologically I thought, and then there's probably a lot of
just getting old. Is it just that bit when you're driving your car and you're getting to a complicated junction and you just turn the music down a wee bit just so you can concentrate better.
Just so that you can. It might be something. I don't know.
I think the only thing I probably in terms of this particular topic is about the fact that unlike a car, it's not as easy to control what you're listening to and when you can turn your volume and stuff off, because you don't want to be sitting fiddling with volume controls on a phone and anything like that, and depending on where it is in your helmet, you've got to kind of make a decision before you start the ride what you're setting it at.
Aye, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think obviously, I've got the Pack Talk, which has got the wee wheel on it, which is much easier to access than the buttons on the Freecom one. Aye. And plus the new Cardos the new Pack Talks have got the voice command in it, so you can say, "Hey Cardo, skip track," or do whatever.
However, I can never get that working in mine.
Aye, however, you and I both know we're from a part of the globe that does not lend itself well to voice recognition.
No.
You know what I mean?
Hello, computer.
I know. I'm leaving. And that can be a bit of a... So you're right. I think you need to kind of have it set.
I also like to sing along when I'm riding. And the trouble is, if you've got that voice recognition that thinks you're trying to answer a phone call...
It does.
It cuts you out,
It cuts the music off.
So you want to sing along an absolute cracking tune, right?
Aye.
Like Faith Hill. And... or Anthrax. And you start singing along and it goes, beep. I do not understand your command.
Yes.
Aye.
That does get frustrating. Really frustrating. Yeah, I think earplugs for me, I'll continue to use earplugs.
Yeah.
I may actually at some point invest in moulded ones, actual proper moulded to my. I get custom fit ones. You can get them with the speakers built in. I just don't know what the quality's like. I'd need to do a bit of research and stuff on that. But even just custom fit ones that have got decent filters so that you can still hear them, then happy days. So I will continue to use them. But in terms of still having music in my ear, I couldn't. I don't know if it would take something away. Maybe we should experiment and try riding without having our music going. But I do think my gut feel says it would take something away from me from the bike.
I think it's enhanced my enjoyment of riding, because for the first kind of, I don't know, 5-6 years when I first passed my test, I didn't have music. I just didn't have it. I didn't have the stuff in the house. It was too expensive.
Aye.
The technology was just too expensive. When I first got my bike, I wasn't earning particularly huge amounts of money and anything like that. And you were kind of budgeting this, that, and the next thing. And I loved going out and riding my bike. But once I got the speakers fitted and the helmet and all that, it's just so much. It's so much more enjoyable on longer journeys. I think longer journeys, it just breaks everything up a bit.
And it lends itself well, especially if you're carrying pillion.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a pillion on the back that's got columns and you can share columns, then your music can be literally trickling in the background, but you can actually have a conversation. Which again, a lot of people will say that, but they like being on the bike on their own, and it's what you got. But if you're going anywhere
with a pillion,
sometimes being able to just have that chat and just check in with them and stuff like that is just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I'm a big advocate of it. I don't have it blaring out. I did that when I was 18. Driving a bit my mum's Peugeot 206. So that's how long ago that was. And I've kind of had my day doing that. I don't know, it just enhances my riding experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Aye.
I think you're right. Again, I actually still quite like to drive with music playing out my car. No, not that. To be fair, it is old man music.
It's Faith Hill.
It's Faith Hill.
Or Barry Manilow.
Or Zach Brown Band at the moment, which is
is
quite a lot of listening to at the moment. But again, only if I've got my shades and my cowboy hat on. So,
Just had a thought actually before we wrap that up. I don't think I've ever done it, and this is going to be ironic, right? I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast while riding a bike.
Not me neither.
I've done it in the car.
Aye.
I have listened to the podcast in the car, but I don't think I've ever listened to one on the bike.
Or an audiobook, how to DVLA's How to Ride a Bike audiobook.
Riding for Dummies. I've got Ted Simon's Jupiter Travels on audiobook, quite inexpensive, but I never even thought of listening to that.
No,
I might test that theory out. I'll report back on that one.
I've never done it because I tend to find I've tried listening to audiobooks in the car when I'm driving, and I lose where the story and everything is because I'm too busy concentrating.
Aye, maybe that's why.
Podcast may be different because it's just you're just listening to
ramblings of two middle-aged fools.
Exactly, yeah.
Whatever podcast you choose to listen to.
Yeah, obviously,
obviously know this one.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely no. It's we're not quite middle-aged yet. Well, no, depends really. Definition of middle-aged. Conclusion. I think it's obviously it's a very individual thing, but for me, if music is part of who you are, and I know a lot of people don't really do music as such, but music part of that, then it's without a doubt gives more enjoyment for me, and I think probably most people about riding your bike. You're getting emotive things from being on a bike, and if you enhance that with the kind of music that reminds you of the soundtrack of your life, and things that maybe lost youth and stuff. I'm not saying that you then go out and buy yourself skinny jeans and try and dress like a millennial or whatever, but it just brings back such great emotions music for me. So I think now that I've discovered it and had the tech to do it, I would be gutted to lose it and not have that again on my bike. So yeah.
What about from a safety perspective? Do you think it impairs your awareness and your safety, or
no, I don't actually, because you're so aware of everything on a bike anyway. I think it's worse on a car because you have that illusion of safety around you in a car.
Yeah,
and probably that's more dangerous to a biker than the biker listening to music. Is people who sing and dance and listen to music with their reins in the back.
Aye. Folk who are on stage.
Exactly, yeah. So that's far more dangerous to a biker than the biker listening to music.
Yep, I'm going to completely agree. That's 2 weeks. That's 2 podcasts in the trot. We've completely agreed. I'm thinking it's about time we get another guest in here who's just completely left field.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't mean the band. I mean like completely left field. I think you're right. I think the when you say about the whole soundtrack to life thing, that resonates in terms of people say like riding a car is like watching a movie, but riding a bike is like being in a movie.
Aye.
And I think you're right. I think that being on a bike and having, albeit it's not blasting in my ear, but it's just trickling away in the background, it kind of enhances everything that I find cool about a bike and everything I enjoy about being a bike, and just having that open road. And
if you watch a movie without music in the soundtrack, so I watch a lot of old movies where they didn't put music in the soundtrack, and then you watch like modern epics now where there's music in the soundtrack. It's a different experience, and it's the same but on a bike. It's like an amazing experience but on a bike. Stick some atmospheric music of whatever it is, whether it's Anthrax or Faith Hill, whatever you want, left field, Justin Bieber for those that like that kind of thing.
Barry Manilow, whoever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the best. I think that has summed it up for you and I to a T.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that whole movie analogy.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
We'll
get a clip of us and we put the Top Gun soundtrack on, zooming by the, and put it up on the Facebook page.
Absolutely. Maybe that may be one of the examples of different cameras up and down past the airport.
Yes,
that'd be good. We'll keep an eye on Facebook and Instagram for that.
Yeah, watch all social media platforms, excluding TikTok. For that one.
Yeah. Although we may get off the bikes at one point and do a TikTok dance. No, we won't. No, we will not.
To Anthrax or Faith Hill.
To Faith Hill. Maybe a match. If anybody's out there who's really good with music, can you do me a mashup of Anthrax and Faith Hill? There's a really cool, is it New Order and Kylie? Mashup that just works beautiful, right? My son let me hear, and I thought, well, that's going to be terrible, but actually works really well. If anyone's out there and they want to do is an Anthrax / Faith Hill mashup, go for it. I would love to hear that in a bike.
Or AC/DC and the Bee Gees.
No, that could be a tragedy, to be honest.
No. I'll let you hear it later.
Have you got one?
Aye.
Excellent.
And we'll leave it at that.
Perfect.
Folks, that's it for episode 2. Thanks for listening to the nonsense of, and it's been Anthrax to Faith Hill. It's been nonsense this week. But thanks for supporting the first episode. We've been absolutely blown away with the support on episode 1.
Thank you so much, folks.
So hopefully episode 2 it goes well, and episode 3 will be on its way shortly as well. Just remember that these are just the opinions of me and Ian, who are just a couple of average bikers. Yeah.
So a massive thank you from myself and Darren here. And if you've enjoyed this, please like, share, and more importantly, subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with questions or a possible big question, then please email us at averagebikersinacave@outlook.com, or get in touch via our Facebook page or Instagram. We will see you in episode 3. So until next time, remember, only a biker understands why a dog sticks his head out of a car window.